Live. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, Majitana Bongwana, welcome to it. Another edition of Sporting 101. Now, this one is a special one because we're doing a special of the Rugby World Cup. Ziyasha, kumnandi. Like, you know, when you are a defending champion as a nation, there's nothing as beautiful as that. Because, listen here, we started on a good foot, but I've got experts that can tell me that. And with us today in studio, I've got Tebo Simola. This man at CUT, when you heard them say Buddha, you knew they were talking about Tebo. And also, we've got Mzansi Flavor in the house. And one shooter is in the building. Gents, welcome to it.
Yo, Pizzo, thanks a lot, man. It's always a pleasure to be here. At least now, I'm talking Rugby. Talking Rugby, not the AFCON, because in the AFCON I got it wrong. But you know, it's good to be here, man.
And thanks also, at least you're not talking Manchester United because wow.
Sure, I don't think I'll chat to that. But thank you for having us. It's good to be. It's good to chat rugby. You know, we've got the Rugby World Cup on, and it's been an excellent weekend of rugby. Yeah. And I really think it's time that we take everything apart, just chat about it. Proud of the box. I mean, it was a good opening weekend. So looking forward to chat about that.
Listen, just before we jump into it, right? You know, people prefer for presenters to introduce their guests, but also I personally prefer for guests to introduce themselves as to what they do so that somebody understands that you didn't just sit on that couch for nothing, you know, because I can tell you, I'm talking 2 commentators, I'm talking 2 coaches. It's the list is endless. So I'm going to start with you, Eddie. Can you just jump into it and let our viewers know who Eddie is?
Well, you know, as you can see, I'm bringing the balance here tonight. I'm lucky enough to be a radio commentator. I do it in my mother tongue, which is Afrikaans. So I do a bit of radio commentary. I was lucky enough to do the Namibia-Italy game on radio commentary this past weekend, and then I do a lot of schools rugby as well. You know, apart from that, I'm just, you know, your regular teacher and rugby coach at the school. But that's me in a nutshell, if you want to put it that way.
Stable?
Hey, yeah, no.
How long do we have to introduce this guy?
He just said now that he commentated the Italy and Namibia game.
Yeah.
Also forgot to mention that it's his first Rugby World Cup game, so well done on that.
Thanks,
man. Yeah. Sure.
But yeah, to everyone listening, I mean, I'm just Tebogo Masimula, a KZN boy. And yeah, my name is, it confuses people. But yeah, I'm a junior skills coach at the UXI, International Institute of Excellence, and also I'm a Super Sport Schools presenter. And yeah, man, that's also me.
And commentator. I mean, you're forgetting the commentary part.
And a commentator, yes. So previously, Varsity MC, Varsity Cup MC, I took over from the man himself here in studio, Big Zopi.
You know, for sure. But let's start it here, right? I want us to start with the groups, but before we jump into the groups, there was just a lot of talk about the Springboks, particularly in their first game, right? When we look at how they started, did we start in a way that sends a statement to you know, this World Cup as the defending champions?
I honestly don't think we sent a statement out, but I don't also think it wasn't necessary for a statement. You know, it's the same with, and we're going to get to that, Ireland, Romania. It's just important that we get through that without having any crucial injuries. So it's not necessary yet, and I don't think at all to send a statement. I mean, if we look back 2019, we lost our first game of that World Cup and we won it. So I don't think it's important that we send a statement. I just think it's important that we win the match. And if you can win that match, I mean, that's one you can take off from your list, and that's the important thing for me.
Yeah. No, I definitely think what he means by that is that we just had to win, which is true, because when you look at it and in terms of the upcoming fixtures and all of that, I mean, we still have to face Ireland, but when you think about it, Scotland made it tough for us because they have 2 weeks of rest that is still coming up. So by the time Scotland play their second game in the Rugby World Cup, we would have already played 3. You know what I mean? So for us, it was very important that we had to win. I mean, they had us in the first half, you know, very shaky, 6-3, the score going into halftime. And then for us to come back and win it, you know, it just shows that even, I'm not going to say necessarily on a bad day, you know, but good teams know how to win when they're not playing at their best. You know?
Let's start with the groups, right? And just see, like in terms of strength, all those groups, right? In Pool A, we've got Italy, we've got France, who started on a good note as the host nation.
Yeah, very good.
We've got Uruguay, we've got New Zealand, we've got also Namibia. And Eddie, for you, this was a first World Cup game that you commentated. When you look at this group, what do you make of this group?
Well, I think it's a very straightforward group in terms of who we think is going to go through. I don't think if there's going to be an upset, Italy's going to cause it. I thought maybe if the All Blacks edged France this weekend, Italy might have been the team that beat France, but I don't think that's going to happen, and I also don't think the All Blacks are going to lose to Italy. Even though they've lost 2 on the trot, they're still a world-class outfit. I mean, when it comes to measuring at international level, I mean, the All Blacks are just, they're the benchmark together with South Africa. So I don't think the All Blacks are going to lose them, and for me, it's an easy one to say that France 1, New Zealand 2 is going through in this group.
And I know you're gonna almost share the same sentiments for sure.
Yeah.
That is why I want to jump into the second group. That's where we are. That's where the team that is ranked number 1, that is Ireland, is in also. Which one would look at it and be like, chances are we might, end up with this 2 teams just being the 2 teams that have this group and walk away with it. What do you think of it? It is made up of Ireland, Springboks, Tonga, Scotland, as well as Romania.
Yeah, in terms of this group in Group B, basically we were really competing against Ireland. I think, definitely the group stage, it's going to be 1 and 2 is going to be between the Springboks and Ireland. And, Scotland, they had a chance to do something. I think they've missed it, in terms of when they played against the Springboks. This break that they were in, the break that they're coming into now, they would have focused on wanting to beat the Springboks. So it's a group that is, once again, I think the 2 groups, Group A and Group B are pretty straightforward. We know who's going to go through. Well, we sort of have an idea who's going to go through. And if it's an upset, it might be caused by one other team that not really is going to bring really that much of an upset. But I think, when I look at it, now talking about this group, I just have a feeling that after the game we played against Scotland, no team actually has what we have, which is depth. It's sickening in a way, because I mean they took off the they called them the bomb squad. Bomb squad was on the bench. They took the whole front row out against Scotland. Scotland took their whole front row out, and we brought in new. They brought in new front rows, and we brought in new front rows, and every scrum after that was a penalty to us. So if our starting pack can do that, I mean, they changed, they substituted, they put on Willie Leroux, in at the second half, and I was like, we still have Willie Leroux. It's one of those things. It's true.
I saw one of the fans with a poster written, "Our bench has more power than Eskom."
They're not lying.
But I don't want to unpack that too much for now, because I just want us to just go through the groups and then just finish off with them. Let's go into Group C, where we find Australia, Wales, Fiji, Portugal, as well as Georgia.
Oh, well, a lot of people said that Fiji is going to be the team that goes through here because they are ranked the highest in Pool C. But honestly, I don't see how Australia and Wales, I mean, Wales beat them on the weekend. I just don't see how a quality outfit, they've won the World Cup twice, how the Wallabies are going to lose, to Fiji. I really think they're going to bring their A game, and they are going to beat them. They've got some world-class players. Yes, they've got some new ones. It'll take another episode to really talk about the Aussies, because they've got other plans in place. They've got the Lions series in 2 years. They've got a World Cup they're hosting in 4 years' time. So there's a lot more for them than winning the World Cup. But they do have the easier route on their way to the finals. So there is a bit of something to play for them. So for me, honestly, I don't see Fiji going through, but I do see the Aussies and the Wallabies, the Wales and the Wallabies going through.
Interesting. Do you have anything to add there?
Not necessarily, but I think that maybe in terms of Fiji, the way that they can try and make it out of this group is just by keeping the basics because between Wales and Australia, one of them is going to knock each other out. One of them is going to win each other. You know, so they need to make sure that they win every single game that is coming up next. You know, and then make sure that when Wales plays against Australia, then Australia loses. You know, it's one of those. Yeah.
Quite interesting. But we're going to look into how all the teams played out this past weekend, and maybe we can share all those, you know, tactical issues when it comes to how they're playing. Let's look into the last group, Tebogo. Japan, England, Samoa, Argentina, and Chile. Argentina was somehow my favorite. Though I know that England is a powerhouse, obviously they will come in guns blazing. Your thoughts on this group?
Yeah, you know, it goes back to what he was saying. You know, when we spoke about Australia and them preparing to host the British and Irish Lions and the World Cup. You know, it's the same thing with England. I mean, you look at how England, when they played against Argentina, when we're talking about who was I backing to win the game between the two, I was backing that Argentina was going to win that game. You know, because they're coming in with form. But once again, it's a different competition. You know, you have teams that unfortunately, teams like Fiji, Argentina, when they get to a World Cup, they play the event instead of the game. You understand what I mean? So when I looked at that, I was like, well, maybe that could be something that, you know, counts against them. You know, Japan is not a side that you can say, hey,
for sure.
You know, I mean, they did it against the Box ones, you know, and there is something that they can do. But, you know, when you look at it overall, just looking at that group, the group is much more open than what a lot of people think it is. It's very open because England all of a sudden had a red card, you know. They haven't been playing their best rugby. And then, you know, Argentina with basically playing 78 minutes with a man extra, you know, they still lost 27 points to 3, you know, to 10. So, it's one of those things. Japan can pull out an upset. So Japan can go and beat England, and then Japan can also go and beat Argentina. You know, so the group is much more open than what a lot of people think, especially for those three teams.
Listen, let's jump into how the teams play it out, right? You spoke about teams not playing games just for fun, but some teams play the event, right? Which is something that one would ask themselves about France and how they started and kind of shocking the world. Though it's not really a shock if you are a rugby follower and looking into how they play, you most likely expected it. But for someone who's not really following rugby like that, is like, whoo, because historically New Zealand is a big club. Your thoughts on that loss for New Zealand, losing out, 27 to 13 points?
Yeah, I really thought that they would make the comeback. You can never throw them away. I thought after the Boks beat them 35-7 at Twickenham, I thought, well, listen, the All Blacks are going to make a comeback this week. They're going to come and they're going to beat the French. Funny enough, I've watched a lot of different shows around the world, and I love watching what the New Zealand pundits say. And a lot of them, interestingly, called that the All Blacks would lose this match.
Yeah.
But they're calling the All Blacks to win the World Cup. So there's a lot of that as well, talks of, New Zealand would have lost. But it is disappointing, That's the first time in history that the All Blacks have lost a match in the pool stages. So it's disappointing for them.
But could this be because now France are the hosts? Obviously, the supporters were out there backing them. Though we know the world somewhere, somehow, was most definitely backing New Zealand. Could that home, energy and that vibe that I'm the host now, something gotta come out of the bag?
Definitely. I just think there's a whole different vibe in France this week. I saw, I think the national football team played at the Parc de France the previous evening. I think it was against Wales or something, I'm not even sure. But there was just that vibe. The people were ready, they were passionate, and they were backing their country. And so there's a lot of that going into that. You've got the pressure of being the host nation. If we go back to 1995, no one thought the Springboks would get anywhere. For sure, yeah. And they had to start off well. And we did. I think we started off against the Aussies at Newlands in 1995. And that good start really laid the platform for the Springboks to go and win that World Cup in 95.
Listen, Tebogo, if because Eddie just touched on the fact that, a lot of rugby people, they spoke of France most likely going to win this game, and it really happened that way. But also what he mentioned is that New Zealand seemed to be the favorites to actually win the World Cup. What is it that they can fix when you're looking at that game that they played against France?
No, I don't really think that there is a lot that New Zealand would actually say for themselves that they need to fix. I think it's mostly the real reason why they might have lost this game is because I think they're a bit low on confidence. A lot of things didn't really go their way in the games. I mean, in the game that they played, I mean, you could see that even when contesting a high ball, unfortunately not getting the timing right off the jump, leading to a yellow card, and then obviously France being the host nation, having a lot of the crowd on their back, and it's small things, because it's really small things that even just a simple thing as knocking the ball, you have the whole stadium. They're shouting, they're screaming, they're excited, and it puts pressure even on some of the best players in the world. You know what I mean? France, they really do have a good squad, but I just have to be honest and say that the pressure of playing at home will come to get them. It's a good thing until they reach the groups, until they reach the last quarterfinals, the semifinals, and if they make it to the finals. New Zealand, trust me, New Zealand just want to make it out of the group. And whoever they face after that, hopefully it's not us, because that's the thing. With New Zealand, South Africa, the Springboks, for us, now that they've lost 2 games in a row, it's all about when will they wake up. And when they wake up, we hope that we don't face them. We were speaking about it. We said that we would rather play New Zealand in the final than play New Zealand in the quarterfinal.
And that's changed a bit now. That's even changed a bit.
You see, so now you definitely want to avoid them. If maybe we were also in this group, and if it was France, New Zealand, and us, and then we would know that they would still play us. Then maybe we have a chance of beating them, and then we go and beat France, and then we know that they're out. So but now it's a thing of you don't want to meet France anywhere at the moment. New Zealand anywhere at the moment, rather at the final.
Listen, we're going to take a brief break, right? But before we do, I just want to give someone who missed out on this weekend and haven't checked as to how all these teams have played on Saturday. So on Friday, when the World Cup started, it was France and New Zealand. And as we said earlier, 27-13 in favor of France. But on Saturday, we saw Italy beating Namibia, obviously, by 52-8 there.
Massive score.
Ireland against Romania, a team that the Springboks is going to face next. That was a massive score, 82-8. Australia edging Georgia by 35-15, and England beating Argentina by 27 to 10. And then on Sunday, we saw Fiji losing out to Wales by 32-26, and the Springboks doing what they do best, beating Scotland by 18-3, and Japan beating Chile by 42-12. So that's basically how this past weekend looked like in terms of the score and the fixtures that played. But we're going to take that break. When we come back from the break, we're definitely looking into our squad, because one man was a huge talking point worldwide. And I want to pick Eddie and Tebogo's minds because, I mean, South Africans are excited about that pass that he made looking the other way, and the ball went the other way. And it ended up in a try. So, but there's a lot more to talk about, because people that watch rugby and love rugby, they had different opinions about his performance. But let's go into a break. We are definitely coming back.
Ayo, this is equivalent Sputnik Marupin, and we are behind the scenes of Patko's show with Rugby. Don't forget, every Sunday at 6 o'clock, FS Online, baby. We're bringing you the nice interviews, funny, relaxed, family orientated. So come and join us, because me, Uncle, don't like.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, Majitana Bwana, we are back from the break. We've had some water. I'm lying, I didn't have water. But I had what I had, for sure. And I hope you had what you had as well, for sure. Because it's the rugby season, man. I know, but for sure. Back to it. I still have World Cup. And now we're going to be very particular. We're going to jump into the green and gold, the Springboks, the team that makes the whole country tick, the defending champions, you know, the team that excites us. Yeah, these ones are not a bunch of mabenas. They're winners.
Disappoint me again.
Hey, disappoint me again.
You, Mabena.
Let's start this way. I don't want to start with the bench. I want to start with looking generally. You know, our attack and our defense. Scotland is a team ranked number 5, right?
Number 5, yeah.
Number 5 in the world, and they could only put in like 3 points against us. This means in that game we're doing good defensively, but we could look as far as the games we played prior to the World Cup as well. How are we doing in terms of our defense and our attack, and looking into the chances we have in this World Cup?
Yeah, well, I mean, the great thing about our coaching staff is that they go and analyze, you know, who they're playing against. And they know, you know, Scotland, for instance, has 2 good wings in Duan van der Merwe and Carl Steyn, both South African born. They've got a good fly-off in Finn Russell. So if you're going to keep them quiet in the game, they're not going to score any points. If you're going to let them, you know, give them the space to get creative, they're going to score the points, you know. If we're going to face, you know, Romania in this coming week, we don't know too much about them. I mean, it's not a side that plays international rugby on a regular level, but we're going to know what to expect from a team like Ireland. We're going to know, you know, the Johnny Sextons, the Bundiakis. We're going to know what to expect from them, and that's what we prepare for. You know, we know who the key players are in the key positions, and so you'll see, you know, a guy like Finn Russell was kept quiet. He was hit. I think after 30 or so minutes, I said to myself, listen, this Oaks, he wants to go and sleep now. You know, he's
tired.
He's tired. You know, he wants to go and what's the word that you use? They're not a bunch of mabenas. You know?
Yeah.
I think he was a mabena at that stage. He wanted to go and have a rest. You know, so I think we're doing very well in that case.
Debza?
Yeah, you know, I think you spoke mostly, you know, in terms of the defensive side, but I have to mention that, you know, when it comes to defense, the Springboks and all of them, I was watching the Fiji and Wales game, you know, and I was seeing how when Wales were defending, you know, they would get tackled and then some of their players would still lie down in the ruck, some players on top of them, where if you look at the Springbok game, they're hungry. They're hungry.
The fact that you touched on that, because the whole conversation throughout was on money and the kicks that he missed, which were made such a big deal, you know, and you
talk them down and be like, he doesn't deserve the jersey, he shouldn't be there and all of that stuff. Whereas when you look at the overall game, he got man of the match, other people are appreciating him, we are not.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I mean, if we look back at the 3 World Cups we've won, in the first 2 ones, you know, we didn't have any tries. It was all, you know, penalties. It was penalties that were kicked. And that was the points in the match. So we need to think of that as well. And, you know, a guy like Mani Libbok is extremely good when it comes to the attacking play. Maybe we need to look at a guy like Sanele Nohamba from the Lions to come in, who's, in my opinion, quite a good scrum half. I don't know what you would say about that, but he's also a quality goal kicker.
Yeah.
You know, if you can have that mix in your team, I think you're good. But in all honesty, I do think that Mani's got this one. He's put a few ones through the through the sticks on in the match against New Zealand a few weeks back. So I think he's got this. I think it was just first World Cup game nerves for him, and he's going to get better as time goes on, like red wine.
I like the fact that you touched on the fact that in previous World Cups, you know, kicks were very important. Do you see, because my other fear is that, you know, the game changes so much. And for me, I don't want to miss anything in this World Cup because I was not aware of the tactical changes that teams come with, and how rugby evolves every now and then, and the approach is different. Do you think we'll get to a point where, you know, we need a kicker who's on point like your Andre Pollard on a specific game?
Well, I think you need it now. I mean, if you look at any game where two teams are close, that's going to be your deciding point. If we look back at 2019 when we drew against the All Blacks, I believe they missed a conversion as well. We missed a conversion. If one of those conversions or penalties went through, someone would have won that match, and no one won it, and it was a draw at the end of the day. So I think we are at a point in rugby where it can be decided by one kick. It was decided by one kick in 1995. I can promise you there's going to be a final in 2023 or even forward where a final is going to be decided by one kick.
Wow, that's going to be very interesting if it happens, and we are in that final, and it happens that it goes either way with us being part of, because of this whole talks. But are we still a physical team that all these other teams should fear? Because in the last World Cup, we were we were such a train. We were a massive train that those bullies,
I think the Boko's reaction says it all to you.
You know why I'm saying that? Because someone said they become monsters.
I don't want to mess with them.
It's a hooligan sport played by gentlemen. That's how it is. If you meet some of the rugby guys outside of, so humble, I think that's what everyone loves, especially about rugby. I've seen things, I've seen guys bashing their heads on the wall before a game starts, and I'm in the same team as this guy, and I'm thinking, when's that match? I'm like, when's that match? And it's throwing me off, and and I look at it like going through preseason with someone, and everything is fine. Game day, he's here now, he's going crazy. But then after the game, he's a complete sweetheart. I think that's why all rugby guys have girlfriends, because they're very calm, and But in terms of physical, it is. You know what? Nah, you can still see. I personally say a fighting Eben Etzebeth is the best Etzebeth you can have in your team. Like the Etzebeth that will tackle you and still pick you up with one arm, and smile at you. That's the Etzebeth you want. You know what I mean? And if people look at the game that we played against, Scotland had to put everything in that game because they have 2 weeks off. We still have a game coming up. You understand what I mean? By the time they play their second game, we'll already be on 3. So there's not really a side that went in saying we're going to give it our all, and then we can rest 2-3 days. Is obviously going to have, those moments where they are on you. But no one should...
Let's unpack our first 15 versus our bench. Our normal first 15 versus our bench. Where does our strength lie? Because everyone is so into our bench more than how we started the game.
Honestly, I want to say there's no first 15 and bench for me. I just think if we look at our locks, we've got 4 locks. We don't have 2 best locks. We don't have 2 best front rowers or loose head props or hookers. I mean, if you let them really better, maybe at the moment, Marks. In 2019, I believed it was Bongi. Not one of them is really the best. But both of them are suited for different situations, in my opinion. And that's exactly what we've got with all of our forwards. You had Jasper Wiese on starting this weekend because he plays his rugby in Europe. Dwayne Vermeerstein and save the day. So I don't think there's a best. Maybe in 1 or 2 positions, yes. But I don't think there's a best in the team.
Yeah, I also think, and I feel the same way that you feel about that. But for me, mostly it's about the fact that whoever starts, in terms of in that jersey, everyone is going to be looking forward to the bench because that it's how can I say this? It's like a caged dog. That's how they're caged. They're waiting to play, and then I think for Jogni, Naba, and Rassi, they just say to them, just assess everything that's going on, and then by the time I put you on, go make sure that you add. So and the nice thing is that with the box squad, it's like when the bomb squad go on, you don't make your side weaker. There are teams that have that have players where if they make a substitution, like no offense, but I think when Antoine Dupont comes off, and then the replacement scrum half comes on, you're not going to find the same thing. You're not going to see the best. You're not going to see the same player. You look here and there, and you start thinking, what happens when a Dupont gets injured? You know, So with the Boks, if Willemse gets injured, well, I'll put on the starting 15 for the World Cup final in 2019 in Willemse. If Jasper Wiese gets injured, I'll put on the starting 8th man from the 2019 World Cup in Dwayne Vermeulen. You know what I mean? So it's one of those things where the players are just, you take out one player, it doesn't really make a difference, does it? It's like you said, maybe at the moment with Marks and Bongi, it's because of the throwing. Yeah. But the coaches says Grant Williams, when they take off Faf will play your tactical game. Faf, I like to call Faf a coach's dream. Because you tell him, do this.
And he does
it. That's all. It's like, do this, and he does it, you know. But a player like Grant Williams, you tell him that these people are getting tired. Run them around. Do whatever. You know, express yourself. And then they're going to play. So it's just a great mix that they have.
I'll tell you why I asked that question. It's because, you know, rugby is a sport filled with so many injuries, right? And if your bench is not strong enough, you know, chances are you'll see flames going forward. And when we are still in the early days of this World Cup, you know, not knowing who we might come against in the quarterfinals, as you said, you wouldn't want to come across a New Zealand that's still trying to find, you know, itself in this World Cup, looking at how they started. We don't know how they're going to play the rest of the other games.
No, definitely.
You know, and we don't know where they're going to fall when we get into the quarterfinals and all that. And also, as the defending champions, our chances of defending our title as well comes into play. What do you think? Do you think we have that opportunity to defend it?
No, definitely. I think we're one of the favourites, but it always comes to that you know, it's possible to not defend it. And I think that's the worst part of winning a World Cup, is the fact that you know there's a possibility that we're not going to defend it. But honestly, if you're looking at this, it's in my opinion, it's still the 4 ones. It's South Africa, it's Ireland, it's New Zealand, and it's France. I mean, that's for me the 4 teams that can. The worst part of it is that 2 of those sides are going to fall out within the quarterfinals. Because us and Ireland are going to face or New Zealand or France. So 2 of us are going to be out by the end of the quarterfinal. So we've got that trouble.
I was about to ask our threads, and why are those teams threads? You know, let me jump into, since you mentioned that, you know what, the way they're about to mix in the quarterfinals, 2 are most definitely going to fall out.
Yeah, no. So, you know, in terms of how we would definitely want things to go for us, you know, and looking at the teams. So Pool A is going to face Pool B. So if hopefully if France, you know, end up at number 1, I'm sorry to say it, but I hope we end up number 2 then. You know, so that we can play France, you know, and then if Ireland end up number 1, they can play New Zealand. You know, I don't want to sound as if like, you know, maybe I'm doubting what the Springboks can do, but you always get me on this. I don't like it.
Let me do this. I want to do this real quick because I can tell you with how the Springboks and New Zealand played before the World Cup. Every South African was excited that we started